Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about The Diplomat, directed by Shivam Nair and starring John Abraham. So, I watched this movie last Saturday in the theaters, although when this video comes out, it's going to be much later. And I was very intrigued, because I saw the trailers for this earlier when I was watching it, and it seemed kind of a little too gung ho patriotic. And I honestly, this further reinstated the fact that trailers really do disservice to the movies, because the trailer made this movie seem like another run of the mill boring patriotic cash grab. It's really not. This is a good movie, and I'm telling this beforehand because I went on a weekend night and the theater was still somewhat empty, and it actually annoys me that good movies go unnoticed like this until they come on streaming services, because these are the kind of movies which need to make money, so that more movies like this can be made. But anyway, I'm going to talk about what I liked and what I didn't like about the film. Now, what did I like about the film? John Abraham. He is so charismatic in this movie. It is nice to see him in not one of those action roles where he's doing dishum or he's running off buildings or he's getting hit by cars or there's just excessive noise and bullets and la la la. It's nice seeing John Abraham in a role which is a bit more laid back, a bit more nuanced, and honestly, good performance by John Abraham. We know he's a good actor. It's just that his choice of movies are very mainstream and very, popcorn. It's junk food. But this is not one of them. This is a good movie, and honestly, John Abraham has such immense charisma in this movie. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Great look, by the way. Props to whoever the wardrobe department, or props to the entire wardrobe department, because every costume, every costume, I would say, every costume in this movie is impeccable, from like the residents of Bonaire to like the woman to John Abraham's suits. Oh my god, impeccable costume design. So I feel like I have to bring that up because I was just noticing that throughout the movie. That's something which for some reason stood out to me. So good, like incredible costume design, right? The woman who is the victim in this, again, I won't be getting into spoilers because I want you guys to watch the movie, and I think it's coming on Netflix, or is on Netflix by the time this video comes out, because it did say streaming partner. But Sadia Khatib plays the woman who is in danger, and she's also doing a great job. I would not say she's doing as good of a performance as John Abraham, but that kind of comes with experience, because John Abraham is just that much of a better actor from experience, right? But not to say she's doing bad acting. I'm not saying that at all, but it's hard not to compare considering they are the major characters of the movie, right? However, I think her acting is just good enough that she's really able to sell her character, and I think that's great. I think she does a great job. I personally have not seen her in anything. This is the first time I've looked at her face, so it's like a fresh face to me, and I think she does a pretty damn good job. I'm pretty impressed with her performance in this. Now, keeping the performance aside, the story and the plot of this movie is very solid, and I really like the structuring of this movie. So, usually, and this is something common I've seen in Indian movies, where the acting is usually the main aspect carrying the film. It's the music, or it's the cinematography, or it's the acting. The story, if you really break it down, makes little sense. This movie is on the contrary, where it has decent acting. It doesn't have all the best acting you've seen in an Indian movie, but it also has a decent plot. And when you have two decent things, it kind of brings a good stability to a film, which I think this movie really benefits from. There is a sprinkle of comedy throughout the film as well, which really breaks the tension. And let me tell you, this movie is an uncomfortable watch. I'll tell you why in a few minutes, but yeah, it breaks the tension at just the right moments, which I think is structured very well. It never gets over the top where it tries to be funny after something super serious, but it is placed in a very smart, and this is something I've not seen in Indian movies for a while, where it almost feels like comedy is forced upon you, where you're meant to laugh, but it's not really something, it's not like it was headed in that direction. Somehow it works here, where it's not placed awkwardly, where it's like, oh, I'm supposed to laugh now. It somehow breaks the tension just enough, but also keeps you in the tension throughout. And I think that's very smart structuring on the movie's part. So I have to appreciate the movie for that, right? And surprisingly, a very honest portrayal of domestic violence and sexual assault in this film. This movie is supposed to be okay for 13 plus. It does not hold back on the violence, man. Honestly, watching this, I felt uncomfortable so many times. I mean, the sexual assault stuff is obviously uncomfortable anyway, but that is shown in a very PG-13 way. But the domestic violence, they do not hold back. They straight up show a man slapping a woman, which you could say, oh, okay, even that's fine. They straight up show her punching a woman. And that's the thing. This is one of those cases where you don't need to be rated R. You don't need to show blood or skin to really get the message across. It's genuinely brutal to watch, despite it being a PG-13. It's shown in a PG-13 way, and still manages to get that uncomfortable feeling across. And that's the thing I'm saying. This movie excels in such smaller things, which I feel like most people don't really pay attention when they watch movies as a whole. Like, it's able to portray how uncomfortable the whole act is without really showing too much of it. And I think that's excellent on the movie's part. The fact that they're able to show so much despite having a PG-13 rating, it's commendable. Like, this movie does not hold back. And I was personally shocked that they were even showing all this. I was like, whoa, I was not expecting them to be just straight up bare and bones. So I think the movie does not hold back when it comes to that. And I think it's good. I think it's able to hold back just enough to not straight up show glorification of violence, but also able to show you just enough where you're like, okay, this is atrocious, this is horrible. Now, obviously the movie's not perfect. There's some things I didn't like about the movie. Now, again, when I went into the movie, it was kind of with the trailer mindset where it's like, patriotic, Bharat apni, that little tune at the end. But it does lean into a little bit of patriotism, because they have to sell the movie, right? The whole blindly I love India stuff, which feels a little forced. I will say though, at least in this movie, it was only towards the end, and I understand why they had to include, like, in the end, it's about there's literally a shot of the Indian flag waving, and it's like, oh, India. I get it. I understand why it is. The plot calls for it. It doesn't feel that forced. It does feel a little bit of okay, we have to promote and sell this movie somehow, so let's just add that factor at the end. But again, that's not taking away from the fact that it's a great movie. I do think the whole subplot with the ISI trying to undermine the whole situation also felt a bit forced, okay, so the movie does a good job by reinstating that it's not about India versus Pakistan, right? And I appreciate that. I really do. It contradicts that whole sentiment by then having the ISI agent trying to make sure that the whole situation gets worse, which immediately goes for the India versus Pakistan angle. Like, how are you able, like, somehow in one side they're like, oh, this movie is more about a humanitarian angle. It's not about, oh, the India Pakistan, and the movie does a good job at it, mind you. It's not blaming Pakistan or like, oh, Pakistan. Like, it's doing a very good job of keeping a balance. And then you have the ISI agent, which contradicts the whole thing, which is like, Pakistanis are evil. And that just kind of felt funny to me, where I was like, again, I understand why they had to do it. You have to sell the movie. But I thought it was kind of funny how it tried to be like, oh, it's not about India versus Pakistan, while having a subplot which essentially pushes the idea of India versus Pakistan, which I thought was, kind of ironic. But apart from those two major things, which I was like, I think it's a fantastic movie. I genuinely think so. Is it a movie I would tell you have to watch in the theater? No. Is it a movie which I was super excited to watch and I was like, oh my god, I knew it would be good? No. But honestly, a pleasant surprise. And this, again, it really upset me that I went on a weekend. I went on a Saturday night and the theater was kind of half empty, and that made me sad because I was like, this is a type of movie which needs to make money at the box office, not the other bullshit which makes money. This is an example of a good film, and this should be the standard of films, honestly, because our general standard of Indian films are quite low. This should be a standard. This, if I'm being very harsh, I would say, oh, this is what an average Indian movie should be like. But because our average is so bad, this movie is an 8 out of 10. Like, comparatively, I genuinely enjoy this film. If every movie was at least, again, you don't have to be over the top or really good in one aspect and really bad in the other. If you just consistently are decent at some aspects of film, I think it's a good film. And The Diplomat is one of them. Had a great time watching it. Will definitely rewatch it when it comes on Netflix. I would recommend you to watch this movie. But anyway, that's all I had to say about this film. Did you watch the film? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.